Hey, this is Matt once again. Welcome back to another review. Just got done watching the Blu-ray of The Swarm. Now, The Swarm came out in the late 70s. It was directed by Irwin Allen. Now, for people who don't know, Irwin Allen was the producer of these big disaster movies like The Towering Inferno, The Poseidon Adventure, and the success, if I can say the word right, success of those movies prompted Hollywood to try to go buck wild, and they made Earthquake with Charlton Heston, Meteor with Sean Connery, among other films. And Irwin Allen was mainly a producer, but he did direct this, and this film was a massive bomb. It's considered one of the worst films of all time. It's on the Razzie's 100 Worst Films Ever Made. Anywhere, anytime you find someone talking about this film, good luck trying to find a review on YouTube. Good luck trying to find a review anywhere that sincerely enjoys this film. But I am one of them. I sincerely enjoy the film. Are there flaws? Sure. But one of the worst films of all time? Have you seen Feeders 1 and 2? Have you seen Mountaintop Motel Massacre? Have you seen any of the 15 or whatever fucking Leprechaun movies? Leprechaun can suck my dick, and they're making another one. No more War Davis, but they're making another fucking one. You know, have you seen the Star Crystal with the orange muck reading the electronic Bible to become a Jehovah's Witness doctrine on your door? Have you seen some of these other movies? Have you seen China Salesman with Mike Tyson and Fat Fuck Steven Seagal? Have you seen Steven Seagal's direct-to-video movies? I have. I've reviewed every single one of them, and the majority of them are fucking way worse than anything in this movie. People say to each their own. It's your opinion. Doesn't mean I have to agree with it. Why do I enjoy this film? Number one, I like the concept about killer bees being done. It's a bee movie concept, and I mean that with no jokes about bee movie with the bees. I literally mean a B movie with a big budget like this. I like the scope of it. I like that they put a chunk of money into it. It's a good looking film. On Blu-ray, this looked really good on Blu-ray. And yes, it is a Warner Archive collection, but this looked really solid, crisp on Blu-ray. Very nice to have. And bought this. It came quickly, thankfully. The cast do a good job. I like Michael Caine in this film. He gave an intense performance. Some would say too intense, but I prefer that over being boring or laid back or trying to be jokey or winking at the audience every 5 seconds. It was an earnest performance, which they don't do nowadays. Do they not make a joke every 5 fucking seconds? Or it's like, hey, yeah, we're not taking this seriously. I want the characters to take this seriously some fucking times. That'd be nice. People are dying. You should take it seriously, and they do. I appreciate that. Michael Caine, I thought, did a bang-on job. You also have Richard Widmark, Richard Chamberlain, Henry Fonda, Ben Johnson, which the last film I reviewed with them was Terror Train, which I liked. Lee Grant, José Ferrer, Slim Pickens, Fred MacMurray. I think it was Fred MacMurray's last film. Fred MacMurray, been a lot of, I think it was like Flubber and wasn't he the Love Bug? Wasn't that Fred MacMurray, or I'm thinking of someone else? I haven't seen those films in forever. But a lot of old school actors. Henry Fonda plays a friend of Michael Caine's character who's in a wheelchair. He comes in because he's trying to find an antidote for the venom that these bees shoot out into its victims. And I thought the cast were really good. It was nice to see all these famous, older actors. And they're taking the role seriously. I appreciate that. And yeah, I appreciate the scope of the film. And in a way, it's a ballsy movie. When you watch the film, it's a pretty ballsy flick. And what do I mean by that? The beast kills kids. There's a scene where a woman looks out a teacher and there's fucking dead kids on the playground. There's this kid who survives the attack and then does something stupid, but you understand it because the beast killed his mom and dad, so he goes back with a Molotov cocktail and burns the bees, but then the bees go out and they fuck up a town. Now, unlike the new Predator film, where the kid does something, which in a way was intent, he murdered someone and he didn't give a fuck. He just tried to scare his bullies. That's the new Predator movie. And this film did it better. Because the kid, you understand his reaction. He didn't mean for what happened. And then he's crying and he said, "It's my fault." Talks to Michael Caine. Michael Caine, tells him a story like, "Hey, I've lost my parents too. It was in a fire. It's okay. I would have done the same thing as you did. It's not your fault." Wow, they actually do something that they didn't do in that new piece of shit Predator movie. That's funny that one of the worst films ever did something the new Predator movie didn't do. And then that kid, he went through all this shit, but then if you get this venom, sometimes you go back into being sick. And the kid dies. Which I forgot about, I didn't expect. It's like, man, this kid had a shitty raw deal. And like people get killed. Like Fred MacMurray, Ben Johnson, they have a love triangle with, was it Lee Grant? I forget the actress's name. Or Olivia de Havilland. Damn it. I should know her name. But they have a love triangle. And the other, Ben Johnson, Fred MacMurray kind of argue with each other because they both love this woman. And the older, characters are this kind of sweet. And fuck, they die brutally for a film in the late 70s. Just they're with a bunch of people on a train, and the bees attack the train because they attack the conductors and bite the shit out of them. Sting the shit out of them, I should say. And the train gets fucked up. Fucking Fred MacMurray goes through the fucking window. Ben Johnson goes through the window to their deaths, which is pretty brutal. And then the whole train falls down and blows up, and almost all of them die. Then there's another one later on, Richard Chamberlain and the other guy, José Ferrer. They're in this nuclear power plant. And I don't know why. For some reason, the way it was done was kind of creepy. Where it's slow motion, they're getting stung to death, and then there's like a freeze frame. And then a flash of white light, and then the nuclear power plant explodes. I don't know why that freeze frame, for some reason, I thought was a little bit creepy. I know this sounds stupid, but I don't know how to best explain it. A lot of these characters you see on the bat die. Which you probably wouldn't see that done today. That's what I mean, it's kind of ballsy. Now, okay, are there flaws? For me, just me, I'll give you, for me, 3 flaws. Number 1, which isn't too big for me, but it's, when the film came out, it was a 2-hour running time, or a little under 2 hours. Then, I think that's only on a VHS tape, because everything else after that is the longer cut, which is 2.5 hours. Now, 2.5 hours is a little bit too long for a movie about killer bees. But at the same time, usually I like a longer cut. Usually. But I would be curious to see what the shorter cut was. Like what was cut out and so forth. So I think for most people, they saw the films like, 2.5 hours is a little bit too lengthy. There's some stuff that have been cut out. But I don't know, maybe that under 2-hour one, there was too much stuff that was cut out. But I mean, I could deal with it. You know, it's of the three, it's the bottom list of my problems with it. The two, one is I like the usage of slow motion. People ridicule it, but I thought it looked pretty good when people were tapped by the bees. Because I like you did a good shot of these bees actually covering people's faces. And I thought it was pretty decently done for effects. Was this 1978? Yeah, 1978. Wow, I didn't realize it's an anniversary for this film. 78 to 88 to 98 to 08 to... Wow. That's 40 years. The 40th anniversary of The Swarm. 78 to 88 to 98 to 2008, 2000. Sorry, I had to do that because I'm like, 40 years? Holy shit. Man. For some reason, I feel old. But for 40 years, the effects are not that bad. I don't think they're that bad for a 1978 movie. No. Yeah, I like the look of it. And like I said, the slow motion works fine, except two instances where two different women, one happens sort of in the middle of the film, one happens later on in the film, where it's slow motion, but there's moaning because they're scared. That's silly. Didn't need that in both instances. Just doesn't work. Like, slow motion works, but now when you mix it with slow motion moaning, that doesn't work. The second thing is they do this. I think this was based on a book. For some reason, I want to say it was based on a book. I could be wrong, though. Doesn't say anything here about a book. I don't know why. For some reason, I thought this was based on a book. Maybe not. But there's times when people get stings and the venom from these killer bees. Sometimes the victim sees like a giant bee as a hallucination. And this happens about 3 or so times in the movie. Or 4 times, maybe about 4 times. You didn't need that bit. That comes off as silly as well. And like, what? Like, that's something you didn't need either. It just comes off silly and unneeded. So I'll give you those. I'll give you those. But I like the fact that these bees don't fuck around, and again, they kill most of the fucking cats. They'll knock out a fucking nuclear power plant. They kill a bunch of people in the town. They fuck up a train. The finales in Houston and the military have the bright idea to go out with these the protective gear on and flamethrowers, which I don't know if that's the best option to do for the military. They try these pesticides, it doesn't work. So I guess either you nuclear bomb the place, which I'm surprised they didn't do that, like a ticking clock of we will nuclear bomb the place, or go away with flamethrower. Well, you know, I guess how else are you going to get the bees out? I like the idea of, real life flamethrowers, real life fire stunts, people on fire for real, not CG, not green screen. And I like the slow motion usage of the flamethrowers. And people die, and the flamethrower goes up and burns up the building and burns up the ceiling. of the building that Michael Caine and the other people are in. And again, I like the idea of a big scope for this type of idea and plot. I think that's kind of entertaining and a bit charming in a way. And you know what? Now that I think about it, maybe because I looked at this film as a 50s movie that didn't come out until 1978. Because the performances are so serious, earnest, and sincere in a way, like those movies in the 50s, like Them, about the giant ants, which I enjoy that movie, or The Thing from Another World. Those plots are silly. Hell, those plots are sillier than the plot for this. Them is not a realistic movie, but critics loved it, and is considered a classic of 50s movies, for good reason. The Thing from Another World I enjoy. Granted, I prefer this movie, but The Thing from Another World is one of my favorite movies of the 50s. You know, the dialogue is snappy, but the plot, it's a fucking creature that's part vegetable. They even call it like a giant vegetable. Like a giant carrot. Or whatever. Not literally, but still. That's silly. Oh hell, you know what's a silly idea? Killer birds. But Alfred Hitchcock made it work with the birds. I don't know, I'm not saying The Swarm's as good as The Birds, but... And The Birds is probably my favorite Hitchcock film. I reviewed The Birds. It's the reviews on this channel. Love The Birds. But I'm not scared of birds. I'm more leery of bees than fucking birds. I'm not walking down the road and there's a bird. I'm like, oh shit, it's a bird. I don't give a fuck about a bird. He comes near me, I'm going to punch him in the face. Hard. But if a bee, I'm more leery about it because I don't want to get stung by the motherfucker. So that's why the concept is not that silly to me. It's not realistic. Are you really going to watch a movie called The Swarm expecting realism? Not really. It's a popcorn movie. So I like the cast. I like the earnestness of the performances. I really like Michael Caine. The score, I didn't even mention the score. Jerry Goldsmith did the score, and he did a very solid score. It's not one of his best ones. I prefer the score to the Rambo films, Leviathan, Runaway with Tom Selleck, among others. But still is a pretty good score by Jerry Goldsmith. May he rest in peace. I would say my favorite composer is Jerry Goldsmith. Did so many great scores. Irwin Allen did a competent job directing. He definitely put the money on the screen. It's a good-looking film. I mean, the Blu-ray, it looks great. There's no features. There's a trailer, and there's a behind-the-scenes from back in the day, which were on the DVD. So, yeah, I mean, other than a couple instances of the slow motion where people are moaning, oh, you didn't need that. And the length, since this is the only cut you don't find, there's bits that could be trimmed. And the whole bit with, you get, I keep saying bit, you get stun, you see hallucination. Interesting concept, but it wasn't pulled off well, so you didn't really need that. But again, the scope, the cast, the score, the bee attacks, I thought the bee attacks were well done. It made me go like, how the hell do they do that? It really doesn't like people have all these bees on their faces and like dead bodies and these bees all over. And if you want to call this one of the worst, I could show you worse killer bee movies. There's a fucking killer bee movie. I don't know if my review of it is up still. I should check that. But it stars John Saxon. And in the movie, they literally turn the bees gay. I shit you not, to try to stop them. I am not joking. Yeah, it's still up. The Bees 1978 Rant ATA movie review from 6 years ago. Just type in The Bees 1978 Rant. Oh, the same year as this. So they must have knew this was coming out. So let's make this cheap jack fucking horseshit movie to capitalize on it. Release it the same year, or maybe before this film came out in the same year. But yeah, The Bees 1978 with John Saxon. So yeah, the rant is still up. It's like a 12-minute rant. Disney, what can I tell you? John Saxon's in it. He tries to do kung fu and fails, and they try to turn the bees gay. And it ends with John Saxon standing in an auditorium with a bunch of men and a bunch of bees, and saying the bees are telling us we must work with them, or they will destroy us. Here, at least, they destroy the bees. And I like the way they did it, where they find this noise. Michael Caine finds this noise that's similar to a noise they make to bring them to these these bits in the ocean. And there's oil there too. So the bees land and then they burn the fuckers. And they stop it. So at least it's not fucking trying to turn the bees gay and then having to talk with them as if it's the fucking press conference with the bees. That movie should be one of the worst lists, not this movie. So, and even little bits I like. The military guy, of course, is the typical asshole military guy, Richard Widmark. But I like that, by the end he softens up on Michael Caine, even to the point they reference something in the beginning where Michael Caine has these sunflower seeds. And, in the third act, he's like, you have any more of those sunflower seeds? Sure. Like I said, they're good for you. And the military guy goes, and like I said before, excellent. So there's I like little bits they do that I appreciate. But yeah, The Swarm, probably the only positive review you'll ever see for this film. But I'm fine with that. Like the little artwork in there too. Surprised they actually did that. Surprised they put this on Blu-ray, honestly. I mean, great, it is a War Archive, but War Archives, I will admit, even though they're sort of a Blu-ray version of a DVD-R, they look good, they sound good. I had the Short on Little Tokyo one, that looked good. But again, you're not going to get really new features. And even with this, I'm fine with it because all they do is shit on the movie because everyone hates this film. The people who made the film hate the film. Michael Caine, the others, they say it is one of the worst films ever. It's a paycheck movie. That's why he did it. But I don't know. I'd rather watch this film than many of the films fucking came out this year. I'll tell you that much. I'll watch the new fucking Predator movie. Or Steep Plan 2. Among many fucking other movies. Anyway, that's my thoughts on The Swarm. Good artwork too. That's why I keep showing this. I really like this poster. Pretty cool. So. Anyway, thanks for watching. Take care. And we'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.